Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into the 97th edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan, and yes, we're still at home. I finally got the email from KLCZ about getting things set up, so hopefully by the next week or two, they will get all that stuff figured out. But for now, we're hanging out at home, having a good time. I got Dodgers and Mets on the top monitor, having a good time. Robert, what's up, man?
As you can see, you and I are just talking, hydrating, and no, there's nothing in this. Just finished up with football practice. We are less than 5 practices away from our first game against Sacagawea next week. It is going to be crazy and out there in 102-degree weather. Put a little restriction on us today. No pads, so just helmet and cleats. So couldn't hit or do anything like that what we would want to do for defensively, but it's a hot one, so we're doing a little hydration here.
And let's bring that up real quick. We'll probably talk about it again later on in the episode. People still kind of coming in as we get started on this show, but Robert, as a head football coach for a middle school, has half of his schedule on Wednesdays and half of his schedule on Tuesdays this year, which kind of messes things up. Actually, our next 7 episodes are hit or miss as far as both of us being available, but we will do our best to have every show right here Tuesdays at 6 p.m., whether it's in studio or not. We'll make it all work. Next week, totally fine. We'll still have our final NFL preview, our Super Bowl predictions, our playoff predictions, awards, all that. Get you ready for the Lewis and Clarkston game next week. Maybe we'll try to get somebody on from both Lewiston and Clarkston on Zoom for those. The week after, Robert has a game, so he won't be there, but luckily his bye week lands perfectly for episode 100. Haven't figured out exactly all that we want to do, but we'll make that fun. Then Robert's out the next 2 weeks, and then we have a normal week, October 11th, and then hopefully a normal week, October 18th. I believe we fly back that day from Lambeau on Tuesday, but I forget exactly what time everything lands, and if something gets delayed, it kind of screws things up. So maybe October 18th will be a little messy too. But again, we will do our best to give you as close to normal R&R sports reports for the next 2 months. No thanks to Mr. Hagan over here.
It wasn't my controlling, but I'm gonna blame Lewiston High School and Lewiston Junior Highs for it. So
I don't blame him. Did you watch any of the Little League World Series?
I was hit and miss with a lot of them. I did watch on Saturday a little bit more of the finals for the U.S., and then I did catch a few innings. I had split screen on my TV as I was watching Rory McIlroy charge back in the Tour Championship and watching Scotty Scheffler kind of fall off. And watching the boys from Curacao just not hit the ball against Hawaii. And let me tell you, Hawaii just looks so dominant.
They dominated the absolute entire tournament. I forget the exact run differential. I sent it to a few people while watching it. But actually, Sunday worked out pretty well for me. I was able to watch most of the last little bit of the NASCAR race after their second rain delay and the disaster that happened there. It got done in time for me to watch the last couple of innings of Hawaii and Curacao. That got done just in time for me to watch the last 2 or 3 holes, the Rory McIlroy and the PGA Championship stuff. So it all kind of worked out.
Yeah, and the same here. I caught the. I did not get the 7:00 start, 7:15 start for NASCAR. So I think I was 30 laps in or 40 laps in when I finally started watching NASCAR. But yeah,
I didn't watch the first several. So if they didn't have that rain delay, I wasn't going to watch any of it because I worked 17 hours Saturday. I was not getting up that early. Absolutely not. All right, let's get right into it. Let's get right into some Major League Baseball as it is becoming more and more stressful for me. I'm not worried about the division still. As a Yankee fan, I'm not worried about the division. I just would like to see this team play well at some point, ever. Please, it's been a headache and a half. We'll get to the good stuff. But right now, let's go through the scores as we already got one game finished. And maybe we just lost Denny with this. But the Guardians do defeat the Orioles 5-1. Orioles were only able to get one hit in that contest. Coming down to the end of things, Reds over the Cardinals 5-1 going into the ninth inning. Rays over the Marlins 6-2 in the eighth. Athletics over the Nationals 6-5 in the fifth. Cubs over the Blue Jays 2-1 in the sixth. There's the frowny face. I knew he was around. Like I said, I've been watching the Dodgers and Mets game. They're all knotted up at 3 in the sixth inning. It's been all Mariners against the Tigers, 9-0 in the sixth. Tied at 2 between the Braves and the Rockies through 5. Twins over the Red Sox 3-1. We'll talk about if we need to even care about the Red Sox anymore going forward. Astros over the Rangers 3-0 in the third. Royals over the White Sox 3-0 in the third. White Sox kind of in that same boat, to be honest. Pirates 1-0 over the Brewers in the fourth. And still to come, the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, the Padres and the Giants, and the Yankees and the Angels. Anything really surprising to you in today's slate?
Today's slate, it's seeing what Toronto can finally do. They seem to be kind of in that up and down stage, and they're taking care of the Cubs, but that's the big one. I think the big one for me has to be how the Rockies are playing against Atlanta right now, keeping things tied up. That division, right now, where we keep saying the Mets are leading that division quite well, and the Braves are just going to be that number one wild card. And they'll get to host, but you still think that the Braves could make a push to try to.
They're only 3 games back. They're only 3 games back. They definitely have a chance to still win that division. They're a very good team. But you got to beat the teams like the Rockies for sure. Dodgers just had the bases loaded and were unable to score. So that's a very fun series between the Dodgers and Mets. Very possible playoff preview there. We got a couple good playoff previews coming up this upcoming weekend. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But how about Yankees don't win yesterday, which is disappointing. But what a cool game. Mm-hmm. We see Ohtani hit a home run with like one hand. He just kind of reached out and poked it, and he hits a home run. But Aaron Judge hits home run number 50 on the season. It's only the third Yankee to have multiple 50-plus home run seasons. Puts him with Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle. It's a decent group, I would say. It's on pace for 63. He struggled there for about 2 weeks, and his on pace went down a little bit. But now that you have Stanton back in the lineup, even though the lineup they had yesterday was bonkers, they had Benintendi batting behind Judge, so they intentionally walked Judge twice. But you have Stanton behind Judge. Maybe he sees some more pitches. Where do you think Judge finishes, Mr. Can't Mute His Phone?
That's actually a bowling person messaging me. So, listen, I'm excited. We sat Brian Bremling, friend of the show, past co-host with us. He's joined us a few times. We were here doing our fantasy base football draft last night, and we had the game up on the TV, and we were watching it while we were drafting. It just looked kind of funny with having Benintendi where he was at. I would have thought he would have been more to the upside. He was 0 for 3 at one point, finally got a base hit there late in that game. But, it was awesome seeing the top two guys going against each other, playing unbelievable baseball, and they kept flashing up, right now, Judge is leading MVP. For me, I don't think it's a question right now. I think it's Aaron Judge leading the MVP with a month to go. And they were showing the idea that it was, I think Ohtani was still plus 500, but for what he does pitching and back and forth, right now, there's no guy that is even comparable to Aaron Judge. And watching him and seeing what he's doing with his teammates to try to keep them up playing well, it's hats off to him, especially with his comments he made yesterday. Everybody wants to talk about the 50 home runs. Well, we went through the same thing with Sosa and Bonds and McGuire when they were chasing things. And so I think the best thing that Judge did is he's not downplaying. And I'm quoting, he said, I'm not downplaying the 50 home runs. He says it doesn't mean anything. What means the most is we lost. We got to win. We got to get, and And I tell you what, if the Yankees don't get this guy knotted up for the next few years, I think this team goes back to an identity guy. I mean, you got Giancarlo's there, you've got Rizzo there, Benintendi, you signed up for, but this bat has been the guy that has led this team, and I think they need to make a huge push with this. And I think with his comments yesterday, I would want this guy on my team all the time if he's going to think this way, whether or not win or lose. So,
oh, absolutely, he's a fantastic leader. We saw a young pitcher make his debut in Oakland, and he hit the first two batters he faced, and then got an out, and then walked another, and then it just was a complete train wreck of a debut. And Judge, and apparently this is what he does all the time, as the camera is focused on this poor pitcher sitting in the dugout, he walked over and started messing around with some equipment near the camera, which basically just blocked the camera. So the camera's not focused on this poor kid after his disaster of a debut. And that's just kind of the guy Aaron Judge is. Going back watching these Derek Jeter documentaries, Aaron Judge kind of reminds me of him. Like, he's not outspoken, but he's a fantastic quiet leader for the Yankees. He says the right things. And yeah, hopefully he will stick around. Speaking of home runs, how about Albert Pujols? He continues to be absolutely ridiculous. He hit his 694th home run yesterday. Now just two behind Alex Rodriguez for fourth all time. Obviously, Ruth at 714, Aaron at 755, and Bonds at 762. I say it's a no-doubter. Pujols hits 700. I just would like to see Pujols come out and say, you know what? With the universal DH, and I can play with my favorite team, the Cardinals, as their designated hitter, I'm not retiring. I'm coming back for another year. I'm going for it. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, when I was typing up the notes with this yesterday or today at school, I kept thinking, I was thinking the exact same thing. You're so very close. You're two away from Rodriguez. You're sitting 6 away from 700. Going to be one of 4 guys to do it. Why wouldn't you just play one more year? What is he? 42 years old. I can see him easily playing another year, and it's just awesome to see the guys that is sitting there on the bench with and listening, and they're coaching him up. That's the big thing. He's coaching these kids up that are playing with him. And right now, why wouldn't you want to sit there and play with Arenado, Goldschmidt? It just like.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best thing you can do, whether or not he plays for another one more year. Could he be enough to do 2 more years and possibly try to get Bonds? I mean, you could easily say that. I mean, you think that way, but I think that's a huge chance that could happen for this ball club, and especially the way he's playing right now. So, he's 42 years old. Yeah, so he'll be 43 in January. And if he can swing the bat like that, I put him there.
Pujols to the Orioles. I don't see that one happening, Denny. I don't see that one happening. Speaking of Pujols, hey, CBS, when you steal my tweets, can you at least, thank me for them?
Yeah, no kidding. What the heck? Hey, but I think what the coolest thing is the other thing I found that, when he did this, he hit his 694th home run off of his 450th pitcher that he hit a home run against. And so now he jumps in front of Barry Bonds in that category. So that, I mean, just tells me, this guy is made for baseball. And I think he first ballot Hall of Famer when he finally decides to hang it up.
Easy.
So
now Stefan and I were joking as if we ever needed to fill some agate space in the paper, we can just list off the 450 different pitchers that Albert Pujols hit a home run against.
Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment for this guy, and for me, I would if I was the management of St. Louis, I said, let him have a couple of weeks off, 3 or 4 weeks off after the season. Hey, Albert, come on back.
Mm-hmm.
Be the mentor. Be playing 3 days a week, 4 days a week. We give you a couple of days off. We'll put you in the DH spot. No brainer to me.
So I joked about my tweet. I want to bring it up because it's a very interesting thing that just happened yesterday. And I need to ask Stefan which tweet he read first, which kind of gave me the idea. So obviously somebody else had come out and figured out the Serena Williams and Albert Pujols deal, that Serena Williams had won a match back in 2001 and Albert Pujols had a home run, 21 years ago to the day yesterday. So then I started messing around because we had a bit of a downtime while we're waiting for some of the Major League Baseball games to get done. And, Toronto put up, 15, 16 runs yesterday. So I saw, their 3 young players with their dads who'd played before, it all got a hit. So I went, oh, how great would it be if at least one of them, like their dad, got a hit? And I went through and all 3 of their dads got a hit. So I posted that tweet. I regret not knowing who started it or which tweet that Steph saw about the Serena Williams Pujols thing. But I just threw it out there. I thought it was fun. I sent it to all of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought it was a funny little tidbit. Blew up for me on Twitter, at least to my standards, to the point like sportsillustrated.com ran it as far as one of their 5 things that they saw. They put my little, or a tag to my tweet. They didn't put my name in that thing or anything. And then our friend Doofenberg sends me this thing that's blowing up on Facebook, but not by me, but by a CBS writer who almost had the identical style tweet, but instead of me tagging all the players hoping to, get one of them to retweet it, he took the tags out and just put real names. But other than that, it looked identical to my tweet. Whether he stole it or not, it's whatever. I'm not the only crazy person out there that decided to look up these young kids and their dads who played back, in the 90s and early 2000s. But all I know is it made me feel extremely old looking up that stat yesterday. And I'm sure there's even crazier stuff that you could add to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see 2 40-year-olds and still playing decent or above average in their significant sports. But for you to dive in and see that box score of what was going on in Toronto with Bichette and them, it just tells me how much of a stat
nerd. It's okay.
Nut.
You can call me a nerd.
I was going to say a stat nut that you are, that you do these things. I mean, if any of you know, and I mean, Randy throws out some crazy stats, even for our bowling league. And so what's really...
Oh, yeah. Just wait till week 1 of our bowling league. I got some fun ones.
Yeah. And I mean, for this one to come out, it was really weird because you sent me the picture, the one from Doof that talked about it and him changing it. So everybody, it's getting to that point. Well, everybody shares everything anymore. So
again, I'm not super upset about it, though. It's really funny because Doofenberg took a screenshot of my tweet and commented it to him on his tweet and has been blocked by that writer from CBS. So, whatever. I was just happy Denny really liked that tweet or that stat that I had. It's fun. It was a fun thing to kind of go through, and it wasted about 30 minutes of work while we waited for a couple of the late games to get done. I know the Padres game was just dragging. So the Giants game too was rough. Get through some more injuries. Justin Verlander hits the 15-day IL. At this point, it looks like he'll be ready for the postseason. That's all that really matters for the Astros. Same thing with Tony Gonsolin. A little bit scarier because it's a strained right forearm. But the Dodgers are in a spot where they don't need him to pitch until the postseason. Maybe one rehab start just to kind of get him back in the groove. But I think both of them, from the looks of it, have dodged a serious injury for now. And both of those guys should be ready as far as the postseason goes. And for both of those teams, they're up by at least 10 games. The Dodgers are up near 20. So I think they will just be fine. You put in here about...
do they... I got to throw this out there, and we do all the time. Do you think it's finally is it going to be a 20-game plus win?
The Padres are just imploding If they play each other this weekend, the Padres cannot beat the Dodgers. It's gonna be 20 by the time we talk again next week. That's my guess. You brought in here about the Ichiro Suzuki being inducted into the Seattle Mariners Hall of Fame, and I love that you just call her Ichiro Girl. You have the disrespect not to put her real name, which I don't know who it is. But if you've never seen that video from, what was it, 2006, 2008, somewhere like in there, Ichiro goes for a foul ball, and it basically falls into the lap of this lady on the right field line, and the lady just freaks out because Ichiro touched her, and she has to call her mom, and she's losing it. So they relive that, where she's going to throw the first pitch, and they surprise her with Ichiro coming out. She has the same reaction. She's adorable. It was hilarious, her reactions, but come on, you got to get her name.
Yeah, I don't remember her name, but yeah, it was Ichiro weekend over in Seattle for you Mariner fans, and they had her throw out the first pitch. She had no clue that he was going to be there as he was out shagging balls. He was in uniform on Friday night, out there shagging with Julio Rodriguez, and no clue that he was going to come out and catch the first pitch. And she was as giddy then as she was in 2008 when all that went down. So, but then on Saturday, great moment for the Seattle Mariner fans as another one goes into the Hall of Fame, Ichiro Suzuki, which I think him also, even though playing over in Japan part of his career, then coming over here and putting up the numbers he did, 3 years, he'll be the first phone call that you get, first ballot Hall of Famer.
100%. John Boy brought this up on his YouTube show, The Weekly Dumb. So I want to see if you agree or disagree with him. Okay. So Paul O'Neill had his number retired. Came out, nice suit, looking nice. Ichiro comes out to catch this ball from the Ichiro girl. Full Mariner uniform.
Now remember that was on Friday. No,
I don't care.
That was on.
Were you shocked that Ichiro would come out full uniform for that? No other players coming out full uniform for any of those moments.
Yeah, that was on Friday. Like I said, he was out shagging balls and taking infield practice, outfield practice, batting practice with the guys on Friday night, and then had her do it Friday. So
Ichiro's probably trying to get a spot on the roster.
He might still be able to play a little bit.
It's like, wait a minute, you guys are finally winning?
Yeah.
I was here for how many years, and you couldn't put anyone around me?
Yeah.
All right, let's run through some of the main series and kind of look at the playoff standings here for baseball. Yankees split a 4-game set with Oakland. The offense scored like 87 runs the first day, and other than a Judge 3-run home run on Friday, it was just nothing. The offense just died for New York. Boston took 2 out of 3 from Tampa Bay. Toronto was swept in a 3-game set from the Angels. That was wild. Baltimore took 2 of 3 from Houston. Seattle took 3 of 4 from the Guardians. Minnesota swept the 3-game set with the Giants, who were just done. No, I've taken the Giants off of the board for us. And the White Sox got swept in a 3-game set by Arizona. And that's another team that's getting very, very close to just being taken off the board. I keep waiting for that team to turn around. They don't turn it around. So your playoff standings right now, Yankees with a 7-game lead over the Rays, 7.5 over the Blue Jays. They both gained a little bit on New York this week. Mariners gained another half a game on the Astros. They're only 11.5 back. If the season went another year and a half, they might catch them at this rate, but that's not happening. Guardians holding on to a 1.5 lead over the Twins, who gained a half of a game in the last week. White Sox, again, have lost 3 games this week. They're now 5 games back. Rays are a half game over the Mariners for that top wild card spot. Mariners are a half game ahead of Toronto for the second wild card spot. Then you have the Orioles 2 games back, Twins 3 games back, and the White Sox barely hanging on, 6.5 games back. Anything there really shock you either from the weekend or where the standings are right now?
Yeah, and for me, and I said this a few weeks ago, I am not 100% on board with Tampa Bay. And I think they're going to fall out of it. They're only a half game up on us. And I say it, and it's no dissing. I mean, we picked on Denny a lot in the press box during May.
Hold on. I do this to other people. I have to do it to you. On who? The Rays are only a half a game up on who?
On the Mariners.
You said us. I didn't realize I was talking to a Mariner player. Go ahead.
Well, It always is. I've always wanted to suit up, even if I throw a pitch
Me
for
too.
one time.
I would have suited up for any of the teams.
Yeah, put me at first base. I don't have to run very far, but and that's the thing. I seriously think Tampa, I have not looked at their, yeah, I'm sorry, Eric, but I don't think I haven't looked at their schedule, so I have not looked at their remaining. We all down to 32 to 33 games. I think that they slip out, and then I hate to say it, the Orioles move up into there and take that spot. You and I picked on Denny a lot during LC baseball times. When our teams were playing against it, when the Mariners and the Yankees were playing with press box. But I think they sneak into the playoffs.
Hey, Rays get the Yankees this weekend. So,
well,
the way the Yankees are playing,
I was to say the way
it's a perfect time to play them. We go to the National League. Mets took 3 of 4 from the Rockies. Cardinals took 2 of 3 from the Braves. So the Mets extended their lead a little bit this weekend, but the Braves had evened it out earlier on in the week. Brewers took 2 of 3 from the Cubs. Dodgers took 3 of 4 from the Marlins. Padres taking 2 of 3 from the Royals, and the Phillies take 2 of 3 from the Pirates.
Come on.
Damn. Already with the vote. All right. I mean, I'm winning anyways. I've won 4 in a row. So, what are you going to do?
Wow.
The Dodgers are 19.5 games. Oh, let me finish my spiel.
I thought I might be nice about his Western Bulldogs, but just because of that, no Bulldog talk tonight.
We got drama here at the R&R Sports Report. Do I need to send a link to Eric? The Dodgers are 19.5 games up on the Padres in the West. Braves are 3 games back behind the Mets in the East. Cardinals have pulled out to a 6-game lead over the Brewers. Remember, they were behind the Brewers for most of this year. Wild card, the Braves are in. They're 8.5 games up. Phillies right now are a game and a half over the Padres, who are a game and a half over the Brewers, who are really the only other team possible as far as getting in. I've taken the Giants completely out. So the way things are now sitting, we know most of the playoff teams in the National League. We know the teams that are either going to get a bye or host a first-round playoff matchup. We just don't know whether the Mets or the Braves or possibly the Cardinals will get that second bye week. But other than that, we know just about everything in the National League, right?
I think so. I think the way I've been watching the Braves play here the last couple of days. Right now, I'm leaning the Braves way. I hope they make it back there to it, but I think you're almost locked in with who's making the playoffs. I mean, there's too many teams that are way too far out of it.
Yeah, right now in the National League, the Dodgers would be the 1 seed. The Mets would have the second bye, with the Cardinals being the other division winner. The Braves would host a wild card matchup as the top wild card team. They would right now play the Phillies, and the Padres would be playing the Cardinals in the new playoff format for Major League Baseball. We look at our power rankings this week, and not much has changed. It's still Dodgers 1. It's still whether you like the Mets or the Astros better as far as 2 and 3. Robert and I both have the Mets, and it's whether you like the Braves or the Yankees 4 or 5. I don't think any other team right now is sitting in that spot. You could probably make a case for the Cardinals, possibly, but right now we both have the Braves at 4, Yankees at 5. My bottom 3, Tigers, Pirates, and Nationals, or excuse me, A's, Pirates, and Nationals. Robert is Tigers, Pirates, and Nationals, but it's a mess down there. That's for sure. Who's your player of the week?
For me, it's got to be Nathaniel Lau. He's a first baseman for the Rangers. 6 big runs, 4 home runs, and a triple. So 5 of his base hits were all for extra bases. I think the big number that jumps out for me was 11 RBIs and just 3 strikeouts in his 22 at bats. So, to strike out at the dish 3 times out, that's a great number, especially this late in the season.
For me, I'm going to take Tyler O'Neill, left fielder from the Cardinals, mostly known for his speed. has no stolen bases on the week, but he goes 5 of 18, not a big deal. He had 4 home runs and 10 RBIs, showing a bit of pop on a Cardinals team that are red hot. And if the playoffs started today, that's a team I don't want to play.
You know, I read the article a little bit with the stat that I was looking at with the home run for Albert Pujols off the 450th batter. And one thing that was really cool to listen to and to watch that and read that article was talking about their manager saying, you know, each day is a new day. Scrub it off. Come almost like it's a fresh cleanse every day to the park. And I think that has been the best thing seen, and especially in this. And these guys are coming in with that idea. Who cares what happened the day before, whether or not we won, lost, whatever? Come fresh, re-cleansed out, ready to go.
All right, what is your series to watch?
You talked about it. San Diego is starting to slow down a little bit, but I think it's going to be interesting. I think San Diego at Los Angeles on Friday through Sunday.
I'm going with the series that I know Eric will be watching as well, Yankees and Rays. Rays could make it really interesting in the AL East, which is something that we have not said almost all year. I still don't think they will. I'm not worried about the Yankees losing the AL West or AL East, just yet, but a sweep by Tampa Bay could make it really, really close. All right, sir. It's time for our first section of Who Am I? While I look up some win totals because I forgot to add that to our notes.
There you go. All right, I'm going to give you a little extra today, extra stuff. So a lot of clues in this first one because I think once we get to the second part, it's going to be an easy win for you. I am from a sports family. My father was a coach. When I started playing high school baseball, I started at second base. My sophomore year, I moved to shortstop. My junior season, I was also pitching. I recorded 55 strikeouts and just over 46 innings pitched, along with 3 shutouts. I was the county MVP in my junior year, where my high school became the county champs. During my senior year, I won state champion while batting over 680. That's a lot of data.
That's great for anyone that cared about whatever high school he went to. Not me. Oh, I can't even get these things. I hate how this works. So we won't have win-loss totals. I don't got them. Let's move on. Let's go right into the AFC North preview. Again, this is it. These are our last 2 division previews. We'll have the NFC North in the next hour, but I think these are the 2 most interesting divisions as far as combinations for North, South, East, and West.
Mm-hmm.
The South is not very interesting. East could be interesting. West, I mean, obviously the AFC West, to me, is the most intriguing division in all of football. But the NFC West right now is kind of a mess, especially with the Seahawks. So AFC North, NFC North, pretty fun. Let's start with your Baltimore Ravens. They go 8-9 last year when they lost 17,000 people to injury. John Harbaugh's in his 15th season as coach. They add Marcus Williams, a safety from the Saints, and Morgan Moses, an offensive tackle from the Jets. They lose a couple wide receivers, but does anybody notice?
I don't think anybody notices. I think they'd still need one more big target, and I'm hoping that they go and look and see if they can find one more target. Yeah, today was the cut day. Down to all teams are down to 53. So now we really start watching who is floating out there. But you're 100%. I think they need one more big target there. The injuries have got to stay minimal. Losing J.K. Dobbins, losing all of the running backs has been last year was difficult. I know we both feel the same way about you a little bit more than I about preseason. I did watch a little bit of the preseason game the other day against the Commanders. Mike Davis, the backup for J.K. Dobbins, looked really good. Hopefully, hey, Haven, we're getting there, Hoss. That's why this is why I love this kid, man. I even got to see this guy scrimmage on Friday. We'll talk a little bit about them scrimmaging and that, but I think that's where it's going to land. And Baltimore's got to keep the injury bug to a minimum.
Oh yeah, the injury bug really messed up their season. Obviously, when you have that many injuries, I like to dig on you because you're a Ravens fan and it's just fun for the show. But there's a lot of talent on this Baltimore team. Lamar Jackson changes the shape of this team, but you still have to have talent around you to spread out the ball so that then Lamar Jackson can run and he can throw the ball a little bit too. I digging a little bit about losing the wide receivers, and it doesn't matter because you don't throw the ball. But I think for Lamar Jackson, this might be his best passing season because I think he wants to prove himself. Mm-hmm. I do not think that a deal will be made before the season gets started. So then he'll be playing, on his last year of his deal, trying to win over Baltimore to get this big contract that he wants. By the way, dude is soft on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, I mean, he is the Kevin Durant of the NFL as far as Twitter goes, where he is like commenting on just random people who are talking about his contract and how much money he wants and how much guaranteed money he wants. It's getting a bit silly. Liking a photo of him in a Dolphins jersey, sir, does that scare you at all?
I don't see that happening. I really don't. I think he's made it clear that he wants to play there. I think it boils down.
He's made it clear he wants the money from
there. Yeah, he does want the money. And I think he deserves the money. I think you look at the ideas. John Harbaugh and Greg Roman has changed the offense of what Baltimore looked like to put the ball in his hands a little bit more in the running game. They've always been a running team, but they've vamped that offense for his talents, and I think that's going to happen. I'm sad that they haven't got that deal done. He can't get as much guaranteed as he wants, but I still think they get a deal done. I would love to see them get it done here in the next couple of days, but I don't see it happening because he's made it quite clear that once the preseason was done, he did not want to talk about his contract anymore.
Yeah, they've got 2 weeks. They got this week off now with the new way that they have the preseason goes. So I would guess that the Baltimore Brass are going to do their best. I just don't see it. I don't see a contract in because I think Lamar wants like Kirk Cousins style guarantees. And I just don't think with the style of offense that he runs that Baltimore can risk guaranteeing him that much money when he plays a very physical style of quarterback, and that the risk of serious injury is much higher for the way he plays. Let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals, defending AFC champions, the team that the New York Jets defeated. Take that, Chase. Chase rubbed it in my face all year that his team was better than mine, and I hate it. 10-7. Zach Taylor in his fourth year. They get Hayden Hurst, tight end from the Falcons, offensive lineman La'el Collins from the Cowboys, and a center from the Patriots. They lose Uzama to a tight end to the Jets. Auden Tate, a wide receiver that we've never really heard of, to the Falcons. They didn't lose too much. My question to you is, I feel like they were a year too early last year, which should mean that I feel like they're going to improve this year. But there's this thing called the runner-up slump in the NFL, where the team that loses a Super Bowl struggles the next year. Do you think the Bengals fall into that this year, or what do you see with this Cincinnati team?
I think the big thing for them is the offensive line. Yeah, they added La'el Collins. That was a very dominant offensive line for them, and for the most part kept Joe Burrow's upright, and that was the big thing.
What were you watching?
I think what's
their offensive line was almost worse than the Jets.
No, I think they got better with Collins.
They got better now.
With Collins,
I'm talking last year. Last year they had one of the worst offensive lines in the league.
I don't know. Watching them play against Baltimore both times, I think they played quite well, especially against the defensive front of Baltimore and what they were throwing at them. So, maybe just tunnel vision looking at that, but it looked like they were keeping things a little bit more handled. I like the idea that the big sign of Collins there. Now Hayden Hurst, I think between Hayden Hurst and Tyler Boyd. I think that combination with Jamar Chase is going to be a wonderful spread the ball around. I think I feel that with this team. That Joe Burrows is going to get this ball displaced quite well between all of these players. But, I think Collins is going to hold the key for this team this year.
Cincinnati, to me, is very difficult to predict because, yes, there is a Super Bowl slump because a lot of times those teams they kind of sneak up on people. The Bengals definitely snuck up on all of us last year and worked their way through the playoffs and surprised Kansas City in the AFC Championship game to make it to the Super Bowl, played a decent enough game. So I can see a slump, but this team was also on the rise. And I loved a lot of the moves like Collins. And the offseason, they addressed some of the big needs that they had. So I think they improved there. So it's very difficult to figure out which one's going to take more precedence. We'll find out when we give out our predictions. Cleveland Browns 8-9 last year. Kevin Stefanski in his third year. They signed this guy, Deshaun Watson, which is another guy that is messing up the Lamar Jackson signings because holy crap, did Cleveland overpay for him. They also got Jacoby Brissett, who's going to be the quarterback for over half the year, maybe all of the year at this point. They, of course, replaced Baker Mayfield, who they shipped off to Carolina. They got Amari Cooper, wide receiver from the Cowboys, to replace Jarvis Landry. I don't know. This team is an absolute mess. They're a headache. You have a question later on. My answer is no to your question once we get there. Spoilers there. I think this team is too much of a mess. And like the old Cleveland teams of old, there's a lot of talent, but they're not going to have a lot of wins.
Right. 100%. Just where you can look and get excited for a second, your Yankees are now up 1-0 as Benintendi hit a home run off of Mayers. I think the biggest thing for this team is Jacoby Brissett. I mean, it's going to boil down, can he keep this team in the running when Watson gets back? If Watson gets back, how does it play out? There's so many questions with this team. I think the big thing, Amari Cooper, I think that was an excitement thing for him to sign with the ball club, thinking, okay, I got Deshaun Watson here. Yeah, I'm going to leave and play there. So I'm excited to see what this team can do. They do have a couple great running backs. So yeah, I think for me, it all boils down with this quarterback drama.
There's a lot of drama, just a little bit. Speaking of quarterback drama, Pittsburgh Steelers, who had Ben Roethlisberger for years, no longer have Ben Roethlisberger. It's between Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett over there in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin in his 16th year. They lose Juju. They lose James Washington. They lose Ray McLeod. They lose all the wide receivers. Is this team going to compete? There's a lot of people that think Pittsburgh's going to surprise people with Najee Harris, and maybe the quarterback's not being as bad as we think. Defense should be okay. Is Pittsburgh a sneaky team this year?
I think they do. I think they are going to be sneaky. I think Najee will see how the foot is after things coming out yesterday about the little bit of a foot injury. But you didn't say a name that I'm excited to watch. And it's just whether or not he can get the ball thrown to him. And that is the receiver from Georgia, George Pickens. I mean, I think he could be that guy that helps turn around this team and keep them going. But when you have Mitchell Trubisky thrown to you, it kind of is like, Mason Rudolph, when do they finally pull the plug and just say, guess what? Kenny Pickett, this is your team. I think that's where it's at. I think it's time for Kenny Pickett. I know they've already said that Trubisky is probably going to be the starter. I'm a sooner than later watching the few highlights I have seen about Kenny Pickett.
To me, I think Kenny Pickett gets the starting job the moment they get eliminated from the playoffs. I don't think he's ready. but at some point you just got to go with him if you do believe he's going to be the future there. And I think that would be the perfect time. I think their whole role is, okay, Trubisky, just don't lose it for us. And that's worked decently well for Tannehill and Tennessee, but they don't have Derrick Henry in Pittsburgh. Najee Harris is great, but he's no Derrick Henry. Let's get to our biggest questions. And for me, we said Tomlin in his 16th year. Said Harbaugh in his 15th year. Cleveland's a mess. I don't expect Zach Taylor to be in any kind of a firing issue after making the Super Bowl last year, but over under 1.5 AFC North coaches being fired by the end of the season.
I'm going to take the under. I don't think it's going to come down to, as much as everybody was talking last year, John Harbaugh, you're going to be on the hot seat. I don't see that happening. And I think Mike Tomlin is going to be going out on his terms. It's going to be, I hate to compare the two, but I think it's like he's going to be the Bill Belichick of this division, this team. He's going to go on his terms. I don't think him leaving or getting fired will be that. If anybody, I think it's going to boil down to Zach Taylor.
You think the Cincinnati coach is going to get fired?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think they have to produce. It's going to be they're the team that's got to produce because they were that Super Bowl ready team. I really do. I think he has to show. Not Kevin. Yeah. No, not Kevin. I think I like Kevin Stefanski the way he coaches. I think if anybody out of any of them, it'll be Zach.
You're crazy.
I know.
I'm going to take the over because I don't think Kevin Stefanski makes it past January. And either Tomlin or Harbaugh are going to struggle this year and be let go. Now, fired, it might be the key term. And Tomlin might just retire. And that could be a way you get around this loophole. But I think 2 coaches are gone in the AFC North after this season.
Yeah, I don't see Harbaugh leaving. So,
all right, your question.
All right, so for me, it boils down to the headache and the drama and everything with Deshaun Watson. Now, we know that once everything happens and starts with practice for week 1, he can't be anywhere near anything. But there's going to be people riding on Jacoby Brissett. Is the drama going to be too much for him and the Cleveland team to have any kind of success in their division?
All right, now you reworded it, so now I have to change it to yes. The drama is going to be too much. It's going to be a hassle, and Stefanski, I think, is going to get fired because he's not going to be able to handle it. I don't like Brissett. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a great replacement. He's not going to keep Cleveland in it. But if I am completely wrong and Brissett does keep them in it, say what? They're 8-3. Shockingly, they're 8-3, and Watson comes back. Are you taking the ball out of Brissett's hands and giving him to Watson, who's not played in 2 years? He played a couple drives in a preseason game and looked bad, but who cares? But other than that, those 2 drives in the preseason, he's really not played any football for multiple seasons. You're going to take it off of Brissett and give it to him?
Well, you look at their schedule, and I pull it up. Should be an easy win against Carolina, I think, and win against Carolina. Sorry, your team's going to probably go 0-2, as I think they could probably
because they're playing a backup quarterback.
So looking at the schedule, I think it's going to be possibly a 4-4 after 8 weeks. So, it's going to be weird looking at this. Excuse me. At this team.
You think Cleveland's going to beat Baker Mayfield in a revenge game when they're playing the Colts backup quarterback?
I love the running backs. I think the running backs it's going to be a ground and pound for this.
You love the old Cleveland running backs, but you don't like
I like McCaffrey. I think
McCaffrey in the 1 week that he'll be healthy.
This game is going to be all about running and how it's ground and pound. I know they want to make it a big thing with Baker Mayfield, but I think it's going to be a ground and pound game between both ball clubs. I think it's going to be maybe a 13-10 score.
Baker Mayfield's going to throw for 227 yards, 4 touchdowns. 180 of it and 3 touchdowns are going to go in little dump offs to McCaffrey.
I think it's going to be running as much as it is. I don't see him throwing a ton.
All right, let's get to our standing predictions. I don't believe in Cleveland. They are last for me. Pittsburgh, they're nowhere near the playoffs to me. I have them third. And just because I can't do it, I'm not picking your team. I'm going to have Cincinnati go against the Super Bowl slump, and I'll have the Bengals winning the division over the Ravens.
I've got Pittsburgh last. I think with the quarterbacks with Trubisky and Rudolph, I think they need to get Pickett in there earlier. I don't see it happening as early as what they should. Cleveland, there's too much drama. So I've got Cleveland third, Pittsburgh fourth. But for me, I think it is like you said, it's the curse of the Super Bowl, and Cincinnati is going to be down even more. Baltimore's got, and it's not the homer side of me, but as long as Baltimore can stay healthy, how do you go against Mark Andrews, J.K. Dobbins, and the defense that they throw out there?
Easily, I just did. Just put one team one line higher than that one. That's how you do it. Just so you know.
There you go.
Whether it's smart or not, we'll find out in a few months. But it's easy to do. All right, let's get to some local sports. And LC Volleyball is in the thick of their season. They played their first conference game last week. A win against Walla Walla in 4 sets. Garcia Enriquez was dominant. She had 15 kills, a couple triple aces in there. Allie Seaman had 5 blocks. Jenna Carpenter, the Lewiston lady, had 19 assists. Kenzie Dean with 19 digs. Very good opening game for them in the Cascade Conference. And now a big test. As in a couple of days on Friday, they travel to Oregon Tech, their longest road trip in conference of the season, against the number 19 Oregon Tech team. On Saturday, they go against Southern Oregon. We got about 2 weeks still until they host their first games here. Or no, it's next week.
Next week, yep.
Yeah, again, Lewis and Clarkson game. So next week they'll finally be home. Yeah, this year's going by too quick. But they're not the only sport going on right now. Cross country starts their season on Thursday at the Northwest Clash. Golf gets going on Sunday at the Coastal Collegiate Classic. So we're here. The seasons now for the Warriors have officially started for the fall sports. Speaking of fall sports, Moscow won the Judy Fong volleyball tournament at the Lewiston High School this past weekend. Coeur d'Alene finished second, and Lewiston lost to Moscow in the semifinals. And I'm going to let you, since you crushed me like a grape last week in our first weekend of local Idaho football pick'ems, I'll let you talk about the U football action last week.
There you go. For me, the game out of this one, as I talked about it, you and I talked earlier. I got to watch this team. I was highly impressed with the score of Kellogg over Moscow, 50-12. I saw what Kellogg could do against Grangeville 2 years ago. They are a great coached team, and I think Kellogg is going to be one of those runaways. But that's one of the games that you and I believe each got right. And so
it's the only one I got right. It's the only one I got right out of the 5 we picked.
You know, we both went with Lewiston. Lewiston trailed 41-6 after 3 quarters. Yeah, they did come back and score 22 unanswered. But who would have figured, as we talked about this time going into the show last week, we're like, who's Latah? Who is Latah? You know, Layton, Utah.
And Layton, so you could tell Layton had played 2 games already this year, and Lewiston was playing their opener. That's for sure.
Yeah. So interesting with that. So Lewiston falls in that one, 41-28. Then we move on to Troy and Deary. This division is always going to be tough. And in that one, Troy comes away with a win, 42-20. 50 of the 62 points coming in the second half.
Yeah, it was scoreless after the first quarter, and it ended up 42-20.
So it's just crazy with that. Chandler Blazard of Troy, 14 of 17 for 289 yards, 4 touchdowns. Dale Fletcher of Deary, 7 rushes for 42 yards, 4 receptions. There's the bigger one. 4 receptions, 134 yards, and another touchdown. So 2 touches there. We turn our attention to Lapway. Lapway comes up with the loss. Camiai give it to the Cubs. End up winning this one by 6, 34-28. And this one, Cammy Rush was over 200 yards rushing. Mr. Year Out. Now, I don't remember how to pronounce this Year Out name. Elias, that's correct. So he had 8 receptions, 124 yards, and a touchdown. And a big one that I took, and it just happened on my screen too. Mr. Rizzo just hit a home run. Your Yankees now up 2-0 over the Angels.
If you can't come up with clutch hit, just hit it over the damn wall. That's what the Yankees need to do.
Exactly. We've seen Oakley play. We've heard Oakley. They've come up and play up in the division, and they came up big with a big one there. Porter Pickett, a pick of Oakley, 4 touchdowns total in that one.
Yeah, and Prairie, I don't think they're as bad as they looked against Oakley. They had 6 turnovers in that game, and it kind of got away from them. So yeah, you went 4-1. I went 1-4, and the 5 games we randomly picked last week. So let's change it up. I do work for the Lewiston Tribune, and they do the Beat the Experts thing, which is in the Tuesday paper here at the Lewiston Tribune. So we are going to pick right along with it. So if you want to do that contest and beat the experts in the Valley, you go get your Lewiston Tribune, you fill that out, send it in, and make Matt work.
Yeah, Matt Baney.
Make Matt work, please. So go send that stuff in.
You can do it online, and that's one thing I miss. I used to be one of the experts.
I want you to send him a physical copy and make him really do the work. But that's how, if you want to beat the experts. If you want to beat the idiots.
I used to be one of those experts.
Comment either if you're listening live, or maybe I'll have Robert post something before Friday where you can put in your own picks. And if you want to beat us, go right ahead, because we're going to follow along. I think that's going to be our weekly pick'em now, that the Beat the Experts is live with the Tribune, is we're going to pick right along with them. We're not going to do tiebreakers because I don't want to think that far ahead. Let's get into it. We got a lot to pick. Capital, 0-2 on the year, taking on Lewiston, who again got crushed in their opener. It's Lewiston's home opener. It's a rematch of a playoff game last year that Capital won, but Capital has really struggled so far this year. They've been outscored 62-6. So while I do think there's a very good chance the Bengals could start 0-2 because it's a tough way to start, I think they get a big win here going into the big Lewiston Clarkston game.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is they were on the road, they weren't there. I think Capital, with their traveling coming up, and it's always a tough one coming up from the Boise area, but I think it will be a tough ball game back and forth. The youth of this Lewiston team, I really like. The bad thing we don't hear. We're not going to hear the name Cruz Hepburn. We're not going to hear those big names that we're used to, that we've seen them on there. So I still think Lewiston comes out with a win, going 1-1 going into the game against Clarkston next week.
Speaking of Clarkston, their season and home openers, as they will take on the Moscow Bears. Again, the Bears lost to Kellogg. No shame in that. Kellogg's really, really good. But I like what I saw in the practice I watched with the Bantams about a week ago. I think they are going to be a pretty decent team this year, so I'm going to take the Bantams.
Yeah, Clarkson looked really good, and as Haven is sticking around with us, Haven is one of those players playing for the Bantams right now, and he can attest that. I mean, this team is going to be young, and they've only got a few of these starters that were younger come back. Carter Steinwan looking good. Even the backup, Hayden Line, is looking really good there. And Haven, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that starting offensive line is starting to look really good. You himself, Morphin, will be probably in and out with that one, might get some play time. So I know Lewiston, they're already looking ahead to playing Clarkson, because they always do. Everybody does. But I think they handle Moscow quite well.
Yeah, and as they said, Lewiston is 4-17 against Capital. It's kind of a homer pick, to be honest. I would not be surprised if the Bengals start 0-2. But with the way Capital's been playing, you get a little bit of hope. First game of the season for both Lakeside and Pullman, this one in Pullman. I talked to Coach Coffer as part of our previews, and he likes what he's seeing from his squad. It's one of the biggest squads he's had in years. up there in the Palouse. But Lakeside's really, really good. They went 11-1 last year. They dominated all the way till right at the end of the year. Well, I think Pullman, who's had some up and down years the last couple years, could be decent this year. I don't think they can hang with Lakeside.
Yeah, you're 100% on. Even though over the last few years, even coaching with the junior high, Pullman's numbers have been significantly down, and to finally see some of those guys getting back into it, playing a little bit more football up there, I think they're still going to come up just a little bit short. So give me Lakeside.
I lost my spot. Where did we go? Potlatch playing in their first game of the year. They go up against Genesee. Genesee in their first game beat Timberline 52-44. I just want to throw out Angus Jordan, who had 5 offensive touchdowns. He had a kickoff return for a touchdown. Oh, and he had a big interception at the start of the third quarter. So he has been fantastic to start the year. I'm going to roll with Jordan, and I'm going to take Genesee.
Yeah, I'm just going to go on the flip side because not knowing enough about what's going on with Genesee, I'm just going to take Potlatch. So give me Potlatch just to be different and try to either let you get one more up, get one back, or I'm going to move one more up.
All right, let's do lightning round for the rest of these high school games. That's already 7 o'clock, but Lapway 0-1, going to Timberline, who again played Genesee. I'm going to take Lapway.
Yeah, I'm going to take Lapway too. I don't see them taking 2 losses in a row there. Troy
1-0 on the year at Prairie 0-1. Prairie again just got completely demolished by Oakley, but Oakley is way better than I was giving them credit for. I see Prairie having a nice bounce back here. Give me Prairie for the upset win. As far as records go.
Yeah, I am 100% on board with that. Even though with Troy being a little bit better record, it was a tough game for Prairie, and I think it's a bounce back game.
0-1 Logos at 1-0 Clearwater Valley. I liked everything I've seen from the Rams. Give me Clearwater Valley.
Don't know much about Logos. Logos has been one of those teams that are still fairly new in their offense and stuff. So I like Clearwater Valley. They're just stronger. Give me the Rams.
And possibly the game of the week in the area. I hope this is on NFHS so I can watch it. 1-0 Kendrick at 1-0 Oakley. Both teams dominant shutouts last week. Both very, very good teams. I take Kendrick. I have to.
Yeah, for me, I think it's could be a coin flip. Oakley has played tough over the last few years, so I'm going to take Oakley. Sorry, Kendrick, and one of our favorite coaches there in Kendrick, but I think Oakley comes up with a big win.
All right, a couple season openers. A Soton at Liberty. I'll be homer again. Give me a Soton. I know nothing about either of these two teams.
I haven't had a chance to talk with Jim Holman yet, the coach of Soton, so I'm not sure how they will play out. Liberty has always played tough. I know the youth of Soton, so I'm going to lean and go with Liberty.
Finally, with the high school, Colfax at Lind, Richfield, Sprague. I'm not saying the rest of it. Give me Colfax.
Colfax has been dominant over the last few years. This is opening week. Shouldn't be anything different as they travel on the road. Give me the Bulldogs.
Anybody that has never seen the full team name for that team, look up Lind Richfield High School football. Just in Google, find their max preps, and they list the whole thing out. It's hilarious. I'm not doing it. All right, college picks. We don't need much time here. Idaho at Washington State. There's no chance the Vandals beat the Cougars, right? I'm taking Washington State.
As much as they are excited with the new coach there in Idaho, they're still going to come up just a bit short. So give me the Cougs.
Notre Dame at Ohio State. That should be a fun one. Notre Dame has won 5 straight road openers, so give me Ohio State.
I can't. I as much as I dislike the Buckeyes, so give me the gold. Give me Notre Dame.
In Atlanta, Oregon versus Georgia, neutral site game. It's a home game for Georgia. Let's stop. Oregon struggles against SEC opponents the 13 times that they've played. Georgia's done much better against Pac-12 opponents, so give me Georgia.
Yeah, I think Georgia is the team this year, even with the early predictions from Alabama being the number one, all that which throw it out the window till we get a couple of weeks in. But I'm impressed with what Georgia has produced over the last few years. Give me Georgia over the Ducks. Don't tell Pete Williams.
No, he's listening. Boise State at Oregon State. Oregon State 13-4 in home opener since 2005. Give me the Beavers in this one.
I think that's a no-brainer. As much as Boise State, what they are doing with their program over the last 15 years, I still think Oregon State's too much for them.
Utah at Florida. The Gators have won 32 straight home openers, but usually it's against nobodies. Utah's not a nobody, but that's a tough trip to start your year. Give me Florida, even though I think the Utes are a better team.
I that's exactly where I was going to go. I think Utah is one of the better teams, probably one of the best teams in the Pac-12 this year. I'm a Georgia fan. You always got to root against Florida, and Utah Pac-12. So give me Utah.
And Arizona at San Diego State's our last pick. Give me San Diego State. Arizona's going to be really bad this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. San Diego State all the way with that one.
All right, you have been watching the R&R Sports Report. We're getting closer and closer to episode 100. Again, our schedule should stay Tuesdays at 6, but one or both of us, or mostly Robert's going to be missing some of these weeks as he coaches football. I might not be back from Green Bay in a month and a half when we do that one. So we might have some guest hosts. We might just have to just bring in a bunch of guests to fill some stuff out. We'll make it all work. But hang out with us here at the R&R Sports Report. We appreciate you always hanging out each and every week. Been having lots of fun comments over the last couple of weeks. I think it'll only grow once the NFL actually gets rolling and people want our takes on the Jets beating the Ravens week 1. Everyone's going to tune into that when that happens. It's going to be fantastic. All right, sir. You told me a bunch of high school crap.
All right.
Who am I? Part 1. Let's get a little bit older and make your guy get a little older, please.
Okay, he will get a lot older. Again, he comes from a sports family where his dad coached. He was a state champion. Here we go. I was drafted 48th overall in the late 70s. I made my major league debut in 1981.
3 years before I was born. Okay.
During my major league career, I played 2 positions. I was a career 276 batter with over 3,000 hits, 400 home runs, and only stole 30 bases. That's all you get for this round.
That's a decent help. Not a fast guy, good power, but a lot of hits. We were just talking about Albert Pujols and how he's been playing. Maybe he started in the 80s. The way he
was born in 1982. Albert was born.
Really?
I think that when 1980 when Albert Pujols was born.
That's funny.
So, hey, little Nuggies in the house. Thanks for watching on YouTube.
One of the very few people ever watching on YouTube. I always forget that thing exists.
Well, this is as I've changed their names this year. This is Nuggie 1, and the other one is Nuggie 2. Is get into their 8th grade football season. So, thanks for listening. Any guesses, sir, on that one?
I got no guesses yet. Give me some time. Where are we at? Oh, sports related draft time. This might be the last regularly scheduled sports related drafts. As again, Robert will be missing a few of the next upcoming weeks. So we'll switch it out there. Plus, I was thinking once we hit episode 100, I wanted to change some stuff around, and we're going to have all of the local sports on top of baseball playoffs and the NFL and college football. So sports-related draft will be sticking around. It'll just be a when necessary kind of a thing. I think maybe we'll get it into kind of a rotation here and there and bring it back as needed. But this might be the last weekly sports-related draft. But it is your draft, so you got to come up with a topic.
Yeah, so it is mine. So I'm going to tell you right now. So Haven and Parker are already voting for me. So it's already 2-1. So I'm going to win already. So this week, with a lot of things going on with Albert Pujols and with Aaron Judge, what he is doing for the season. I come up with the idea, what's the best sports achievement or best sports record of all time? So anyone from baseball to football to track and field, whatever the sport might be, what is?
Yankees didn't tie it. The Angels tied it, Denny. Thanks. I know. Appreciate you.
Yeah, so that is the sports-related draft. I got to pick the topic. Randy, sir, what is your first pick?
It's fun to kind of go through some of the different sports, make sure I wasn't missing anything. But how could you not go Cal Ripken's game streak? How about a streak that just is never going to be broken, especially the way baseball is played now? And I think that's a lot of things anytime we talk about these baseball records. It's how baseball was played back then compared to how it is now. But the man played 2,632 straight baseball games. Never missed a game, always played to at least, the fifth or sixth inning, but for the most part played every single inning of these games. 502 games more than Lou Gehrig, who is still second all time. I don't think anyone else is ever going to catch Lou Gehrig. It is just the unbeatable record by a guy that just... They don't make him like Cal Ripken anymore, by any means. And those players that are like Cal Ripken, managers won't allow to play like Cal Ripken.
Yeah, you're 100% right. With that streak I still remember where I was at. I still remember recording that game. I have it on a VHS. Yes, I have that game on VHS, watching him hit the ball. And then Danny can tell me how long it was, but I want to say it was like almost a half-hour pause in between for him to go around and acknowledge everybody. It was one of the coolest moments. If you didn't take it, I was taking Cal Ripken. But
also, can I just bounce stuff as I was looking up different things to talk about for my pick? Is Cal Ripken the Who Am I?
What?
Is Cal Ripken the Who Am I?
Why would you think that?
Because all the stats that I just looked up when I was getting ready to talk about him all land perfectly with what the hell you just said.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, yes, you were right.
I tried not to look these things up to try to cheat for Who Am I, but we're talking about all these streaks and literally went to Cal Ripken's baseball reference page and it nailed everything.
So yeah, like you were saying, you're 100% right. It was Cal Ripken this week. His birthday was this week with all the records coming up. It was just one of those smart picks to go. Couple of stats with him I didn't throw out there because I knew it was going to be tough. So yeah, Rookie of the Year, 19-time All-Star, 2-time All-Star MVP, one of which in Seattle in 2001. So Hall of Famer and one of the most recognizable achievements in baseball. So yes, you win today, sir. And you didn't probably have any help with that.
I had no help. I had no messages. Well, I kind of got some help from a baseball reference page that I accidentally went on. Denny brings up a couple of great achievements. 2 of 3 are coming up next.
Yeah, so Danny, you hit it right on the head. The next one for me, my first one, if Randy was taking Cal, it's got to be Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak. The biggest thing for this one, and Bryant and I were talking about it last night as he was over and we spent some time hanging out and working on things, and we were talking about that streak of 56 games. I mean, you look at that now. Every day, being able to get your head down, get a base hit every day. And then not to take away from Cal Ripken playing. Cal Ripken had to be physically fit to be able to play some of the games. He played injured sometimes. Joe DiMaggio, to go up there, the chance of going 0 for 4, I mean, to get a base hit up against some of those pitchers was unbelievable. I think the biggest thing is out of these 56 games, this was completed in just 63 games. His 56 straight hits was in a 63-day set. So for me, I mean, that's a huge one there.
Just to think of how tough that streak is, Major League Baseball has a game called Beat the Streak, where you can pick any batter any day And if they get a hit, your streak continues. They've been doing this for like 15 years, I want to say. 10, 15 years. No one has ever beat the streak. You can play this game on their app and win $5.6 million if you can beat the streak. They've added to it now where you can pick 2 players. So you can get 2 hits in one day. Obviously, if one of them doesn't get a hit, your streak ends. But still, no one has ever come close to that. Not in real life, not in this game. The streak is just ridiculous to think about. And it's an easy number 2 for sure. My first pick in the second round, Denny also brought it up. Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. The fact that there's one other person that's topped 80. Like Kobe Bryant had an 81-point game before his career was done, and that was him just trying to take complete over. The fact that we have games finishing 160 to 150 and still no one's getting close to even threatening this mark. Like he was playing at a time where there was still defense. Obviously, when you have a big man like that who can dominate inside, he was tough to stop. But I don't think anyone ever is going to sniff at Wilt Chamberlain's record if somebody like Steph Curry is not doing it now with the way basketball is played today.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these players, and you and I have talked so many times. I really think the NBA is, and don't mean to offend anybody that says they're all prima donnas, every one of them. They don't play defense. It's not like what we grew up, what I grew up as. I am a little bit older than Randy, just a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up in the 90s of basketball, which is
of Bill Laimbeer or the Detroit Pistons, how they played physical when Rodman was still there. Even what was going on with the Celtics and Lakers. I mean, it was a different field game, and I really wish I could have seen Wilt Chamberlain play years ago. So, I mean, it is interesting. So,
all right.
For me, my next one has to be probably the greatest hockey player to ever play the game. Give me Wayne Gretzky, scoring 215 points in a season. He is the only one with Mario Lemieux that has only scored over 200. The next closest that is not either Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux is all the way down at 155 points being scored in this one. So, and this was when he was with the Oilers. So this was still a long time before he made his way to playing for the Kings and all that. So, I just got to go with one of the greatest hockey player to ever play. And I know a few people will get mad and say, well, Gordie Howe was probably that one. I still think he edges him out just a little bit.
All right, my third round pick. Again, I talked about Cal Ripken's streak never going to be broken just the way baseball is now. No one's ever going to get even, a third of the way to Cy Young. And Cy Young has some ridiculous records. His win total, 500 some wins, never going to be touched. But the one to me, because the competition way back in the early 1900s, completely different. But to me, 749 complete games. I don't care if you're playing this game in the late 1800s or you're playing it today. It's still a 9-inning game. You still have to get 3 outs in all 9 innings. And he did it nearly 750 times. That's impressive. That's what there's some stats that's okay, whatever. He played in a different era. It makes sense. Yours, you could kind of say that it was a very top-heavy league, and it was down to just a few people that really had a chance to win. For Cy Young, there's not wins or losses. It's just he stuck it out 749 times.
And that's one that I've never really looked at the stats for. I mean, maybe that's what you're doing now. But to think about, okay, when did Ty start? I mean, 749, and that might be one that Denny has for how many games? I mean, how many times did he pitch in a week? Especially that young time of the year. So, yeah, he's thrown up some crazy numbers too. For me, we could have went football. I could have went with a couple of football ones. I could have went with another baseball one, but I'm actually going because it's become a new kind of thing for me. Is I've been watching so much golf lately. Give me the Golden Bear, 18 majors won. Tiger's the next closest with 15. This being in 1986, and I almost put the same picture that we did a few drafts back when he sunk the long putt. That was the same year of him winning the Masters in 1986. And so, you look at the talent nowadays on the PGA. I don't think you're going to ever see anybody closer to Jack Nicklaus, closer to Tiger Woods. I mean, with the season, we'll talk about the guys that are played this year that just finished up. We'll talk about them here in a few minutes because they were crazy. But I mean, you got to go with the Golden Bear. Majors.
Well, that total is great. I think Tiger Woods, if he doesn't have the injuries and the drama in his life, I think he tops it easily. Oh, yeah. I think the competition now is much better than it was back in his day. Like I said, I think it was a bit of a top-heavy league. It's the same thing with Richard Petty and his 200 wins in NASCAR. He won 200 races because there wasn't a ton of competition back then. I want to go back to this Cy Young thing real quick because I did not realize how insane it is compared to today. So Cy Young, 749 complete games. Yeah, every fourth game. He's just insane. Pud Galvin, whoever that is second on the all-time list with 646. Okay? I looked up the active players because they were nowhere near. There was not an active player in the top 100. I looked up the active players, leaders for complete games. Again, Cy Young at 749. Who do you think has the most complete games in their career who is active today, and how many do you think they have?
There's two names that pop in my head, and one being Clayton Kershaw. Mm-hmm. The other probably Justin Verlander, who just hit the IL. Those two names pop out to me over the last few years with the complete games. I would think maybe just over 150 to 200.
Clayton Kershaw's third. Justin Verlander's second.
Well, I got 2-3. Yeah. Man, write that down. I was close.
The man in the lead, he did a great thing with ESPN on Sunday Night Baseball, Adam Wainwright, where he kind of showed his pregame routine.
Mm-hmm. That was awesome.
He's the leader. Clayton Kershaw has 25 complete games, and he's third. Danny, of course, gets it right with Wainwright. Verlander has 26. Wainwright has 28. Wainwright has 28 complete games, and he leads all active players. Cy Young, 749. Jeez.
That's nuts.
It's nuts. Different era.
That's exactly right. So that was our sports-related draft of sports achievement. So just where you know, Randy took Cal Ripken's game streak. He also took Wilt Chamberlain's 100 games and Cy Young's 749 complete games. For me, I ended up taking Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak, Wayne Gretzky's 215 points in a season, and Jack Nicklaus's 18 major championships won. Yeah, you hit it. If Tiger doesn't get hit, I think he blows past that. He probably would be even in with 20 plus. So there are a lot of different other records. Let us know. I mean, you could have talked about some track and field stuff. We could have talked about, we could have talked about some tennis stuff. There's a lot of different tennis ones. You could also have talked about Peyton Manning with all of his stuff.
One vote for Randy. Yeah, there's so many votes. I had a lot of fun going through different sports just to make sure I wasn't missing any. I ended up with 2 baseball ones, but I couldn't help myself. There you go. Let us know who wins. Again, this will probably be the last weekly one. We still might do one next week if something really pops out, but Eric picks me 2. So there you go. I got 2. Looks like it's going to be 5 in a row. Maybe I have to keep it going just so I can continue to be the champ.
All right. Well, we'll see.
I got it. I still got it. 5. God, that thing's heavy. All right. Let's move on to some NFL news, and then we'll get to the NFC North.
Oh. man. And I even talked you up. Haven. Muffin. Come on, son.
Let's just let that one go. Let's go to the NFL. Again, we were talking about teams cutting down to 53. I just threw some interesting ones out there. I'm sure every team has them. I haven't looked to see about the local ones. I've been running the how they fared thing for the preseason, and it's always scary to say how they do in the preseason because they might get cut the next day. But I have not looked yet. I probably will when I get to work. But the Raiders waived their first-round pick from last year, offensive lineman Alex Leatherwood. Robert Taylor sent me a message. I think it was Adam Scheffler tweeted out that they offered a trade to all 31 teams and got 31 no's. But I'm sure one of them will pick him up. Texans release Marlon Mack, so rookie Dameon Pierce is going to be the starting running back for the Texans. To all those fantasy football players out there, that's a player that hopefully you caught as a sleeper, and now he will be the starter there. Bills release O.J. Howard after signing him in a free agent as a free agent this season, so that didn't work out so well. Sony Michel is gone from Miami. That's not too big of a surprise there. And the Jets prove that preseason means zilch. It means absolutely nothing because Chris Streveler and Calvin Jackson, from everything I've heard and some of the highlights that I watched, because I don't watch preseason, but I watch highlights just for fun because I'm ready for football. I guess they dominated all the other players that weren't going to make the other teams and had two great game-winning drives or whatever, if you can win games. Calvin Jackson with 2 game-winning touchdowns at the end of the first game and the third game, both of them cut. So preseason means absolutely zero.
Yeah, 100% with that. For me, I was going to say, and I was going to ask you, with the move that dropping Marlon Mack and now Dameon Pierce, watching the draft that we did, and I'm only doing one league this year, watching that draft, nobody took anybody from the Texans. Is that something that everybody's pretty well set that Houston does absolutely nothing and nobody should be drafted off of them?
I would pick up Dameon Pierce. He's, from everything I've been hearing, he's been lighting it up for them in the training camps, and there's a reason why you cut somebody like Marlon Mack is because you believe in your new rookie running back. I will just say that. All right. I already got the who am I, so we can move on. NFC North preview, our final division preview and our final division to get wrong. Chicago Bears last year went 6-11. They have a new head coach in Mike Eberflus. Is that how you say his name? Eberflus?
I believe so.
His first year, they get Byron Pringle, a wide receiver from the Chiefs, whatever. They lose Allen Robinson. He's decent. They lose Khalil Mack. He's okay. And Andy Dalton. That's not as big of a deal there. But I don't like what the Bears did in the offseason, as Yankees are going to score on a bad throw. That's great. I don't like what they did. I'm not a big believer in Justin Fields in this system. I know a lot of people were thinking Justin Fields should have went first overall in the draft a couple years ago. I just never saw it. And he's not in a good situation. I think Chicago is one of those 5 teams that'll be my contender for a top pick in the NFL draft coming up.
Yeah, I think you're 100% there. You look at that running back core, you've got David Montgomery. But I think the only bright spot I see might be Cole Kmet. I mean, the tight end for them. I did, I hate saying this, I drafted Justin Fields based on just where on a bye week, in my fantasy league, because he's taking on Detroit. I think they can beat Detroit. So that's the only reason I took him in that one. But you look at the names on this team, there isn't really anybody that jumps out that could be, Roquan Smith, about be the only name that for me that would be that leader of this team. So I agree with you. I think they come up well short this year.
Detroit Lions 3-13 and 1 last season. Dan Campbell in his second season here. Obviously the Hard Knocks team. They had DJ Chark, the wide receiver from the Jaguars, Mike Hughes, a cornerback from the Chiefs, and Garrett Griffin, a tight end from the Saints. Also, Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan as their first pick. Lose Trey Flowers, but he was kind of an aging linebacker anyways. I know it's silly to get high on Detroit. I'm not high on them. I think they're going to improve. I think Jared Goff is better than a lot of people think. He got a bad situation leaving the Rams, going to the Lions. Nothing really worked there. They're not a playoff contender by any means, but 6, 7, possibly 8 wins from this Lions team, I wouldn't be super shocked.
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, it's going to boil down to how does Goff handle things in his second year in this system. So I think you're being nice by giving them 6. I really do. I would take the under if you throw out 6 games. I think they win maybe 4.
I don't know. We'll see. Green Bay Packers 13-4 last year. Matt LaFleur in his 4th season. They added Sammy Watkins, which is not a full replacement of Devontae Adams, who ended up with the Raiders. They also lose MVS. He goes to Kansas City. Zadarius Smith goes to the rival Minnesota. So they lose more than they gain, do the Packers, but you still have a decent running game there. You still have Aaron Rodgers there, though he's not high on his receiving core. Defense is decent. I don't think and as the NFC is pretty weak. So I don't think they are going to be a dominant team, but they can still be a NFC championship contender.
I think they could be a contender. But for me, is how well is this offensive line going to hold up? You look at right now, they've only got 3 extras. Looking at what they did out on their 53-man roster. Right now, you got 2 guys that are questionable. Bakhtiari, great left tackle. I think he is going to keep the protection of Aaron Rodgers, and I think that is going to be good. I think John Runyon could be that guy. I think it boils down to how healthy these guys stay in the entire season. So the offensive line is the key here.
Minnesota Vikings are our last team to look at. They went 8-9 last year. Kevin O'Connell in his first season as the head coach. Jordan Hicks and Zadarius Smith, a couple linebackers joined the team. They lose Tyler Conklin to the Jets. Xavier Woods, no, not that Xavier Woods. Wrestling fans, calm down. But Xavier Woods, the safety, goes to Carolina. And Anthony Barr has just kind of gotten old. The question is, can Kevin O'Connell, if anybody watches Rich Eisen, I'm going to do it just like him, because Rich Eisen believes this. Can Kevin O'Connell unlock the winning ability of Kirk Cousins?
I sure hope so. I think that's the thing. They've got a great talented running back with Dalvin Cook, some great receivers with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and what they can do. Irv Smith now tight end. I think, and I hope they can unlock it. As much as everybody is down on Kirk Cousins, and what he does with this ball club, I think they do get stronger with Smith along with Patrick Peterson. I think that they've got a chance to possibly dethrone Green Bay this year.
Interesting. We will see that in a second. Let's get to our biggest questions. For me, obviously Aaron Rodgers, very good quarterback, best quarterback. Hi, Robert Taylor. But out of the other 3 quarterbacks, who takes the biggest step forward? Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, or Jared Goff?
I think for me, it's got to be Justin Fields. He's got to step up, and he's the only name on that offense that can do anything. You look at the rest of the squad. I don't see it happening with David Montgomery as the running back. So he's got to prove it, and I think it's a put up one kind of thing for Fields.
To me, I think it's Goff. I think he struggled there in his first year with the Lions as they are in the middle of the rebuild. He completely got hosed in that Stafford Goff trade. went to a worse situation. But I think he takes a good step forward. I just don't believe in Justin Fields. Kirk Cousins, I have been waiting on Kirk Cousins for years. I've been on the Kirk Cousins bandwagon for several seasons, and he has proved me wrong every single year. So I'm off the Kirk Cousins bandwagon. So I guess maybe this is the year he goes nuts. But I'll say Jared Goff goes nuts.
All right. So for me, like I just said a minute ago, can Minnesota's defense be dominant enough to win, especially with getting Zadarius Smith, playing with Eric Kendricks, and playing with Patrick Peterson? Can Minnesota defense dominate enough to win the division?
I think it's going to be really close. I think Minnesota last year was a team that I really thought could contend, and I think they disappointed. They didn't quite take that next step. I think Green Bay, with some of the moves they made, are very vulnerable at the top of this division. I still am probably going to take them as a top spot. We'll get to that in a second. But I do think Minnesota threatens them and makes it close. The Vikings have beat the Packers before for the division, and it would not surprise me if they did. Now, it would surprise me if the Lions or the Bears did, but I do think this is a two-team race.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Two-team race. I just worry with Aaron Rodgers with his receiving core. You got Alan Lazard. Yeah, Sammy Watkins is no Devontae Adams. So it's going to boil down to these two, but I'm excited to see what this defense can do.
All right, let's get to it. Our final division standing prediction. I'll go first. Chicago Bears, to me, again, possible top 5 pick, possible top 1 pick. We'll see how they go. They are 4th for me. Detroit 3rd. Again, 6 to 8 wins. I think it's very plausible for the Lions. I'm going to have Minnesota 2nd, Green Bay as your division leader. I do think both the Vikings and the Packers will probably make it to my playoff prediction next week, though.
Yeah, I'm going to throw this up there, and I agreed with him, even though he voted for you a few minutes ago. I agree with Haven. It's going to boil down to the Ravens, Vikings for winning the divisions we're talking about right now. Listen, Minnesota, we've said it before. We talk about it all the time. I'm a defensive mind guy. I can't wait to see what this defense can do against Green Bay twice this season. And I think they come away with it. So I'm going to put Minnesota 1st, Green Bay 2nd, but then you and I do agree with Detroit in 3rd and Chicago. Possibly it's going to be Chicago and sorry, Sea Chicken fans, 1-2 on the first couple of draft picks for next year.
Yeah, again, we will get to that next week. We'll predict our playoff teams, the Super Bowl teams, who we think is going to win it all. We'll give you our awards. And I think, just for fun, we're going to pick who we believe are going to be the top 5 picks in next year's NFL draft, just to have some fun. So we've been having fun giving you information, giving you stats. I need somebody's help. What in the world happened to Jamison Tyone, and why is he out of this game? Anybody want to look that up and let me know? That would be fantastic. Why is Tyone out in the 3rd inning? Please. I am not happy at the moment. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to the sports. We do not get enough airtime to finish off episode 97, right? That's right. I think I've said it 12 times. I've already forgot. Aussie Rules Football, their finals begin this week. We're going to go through some predictions. I know this is what Eric has been waiting for. 8 teams are left. 1 team will be your grand champion. Who will it be? We're not going to go through the whole thing. We're just going to go week by week on it. But let's start out with your elimination games. First off, the first game of the whole thing. Thursday at 2:20 a.m. Pacific time on FS1. The 6th seed Brisbane versus the 7th seed Richmond. Who do you got?
Hey, I'm going to reach out there. I'm going to think Richmond might come away with a win. They have played decently over the last few weeks. Brisbane has played well, but Richmond is on a winning streak, 4 in a row. I think I'm going to lean that way.
Now that everyone had a week off, which I forgot about last week when we were talking about stuff, but everyone had a week off and was able to reset. But one team is going this way and one team is going that way. And I'm going to take the team that's going this way. Give me Richmond to get the win against Brisbane and they will move on. The other elimination game is the last game of the set. It'll go on Saturday at 3:10 a.m. Pacific time. Again, get those old DVRs dusted off and ready to go. That is on FS2. It's your 5-seed Fremantle versus Eric Watkins' 8-seed Western Bulldogs. He got hit by a line drive. God.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Western had a little bump in the road over the last 5 games. You take a look also. Fremantle has played quite well, even with that draw back 5 weeks ago. They played quite well in that game. I think this could be a high-scoring game between these two, but I am going to actually lean probably Fremantle.
Yeah, sorry, Eric. I am with Robert here. I think Fremantle's a better team. Very cool story for Western to sneak in with the craziness that happened on week 23, but I don't think they use it to move on. So I think we both agree Western will be done after this week. Fremantle will move on. So let's get to the 2 games that, again, the loser is not eliminated in this playoff format, but the winner moves on to the semifinals. The losers of our next 2 games will play the winners of the 2 games we just talked about. I love this format. Both of them are on Friday. The first one at 2:50 a.m. on Fox Sports 1. Your 2-seed Melbourne and your 3-seed Sydney. Melbourne has been the better team all year. They went through this weird slump in the middle of it. I think they've really turned it around. And if any team's going to beat Geelong, it's going to be Melbourne. And I'm going to take Melbourne to beat the Swans in this one.
Yeah, the second hottest team right now is Sydney. So, could they keep things going? I think them not playing over the last week, getting healthy. Like you said, I think the biggest thing is Melbourne is going to be a difficult match for these two. I know Geelong probably doesn't want to see Melbourne. So I'm going to take Sydney as they're the second hottest team right now in the AFL.
And then Friday night, 11:35 p.m. on FS1, Geelong, the number 1 seed, who've won 13 straight games, taking on Collingwood, who had that wild finish in week 23. I hate to say it. I can't go against your Cats here in this first round.
No, they have played quite well. You said it, 13 straight. But we talked about it a couple weeks ago. They have played so balanced lately that it is unbelievable. It's not everything coming down to Cameron, not everything coming down to Hawkins. They've been spreading the ball around quite well, and I just like their gameplay. And it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to stop at Dutch Brothers after the Bantam game, give me a coffee, and watch this one live.
I think Eric and I agreed on 2 and disagreed on 2. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll see which ones I actually get to watch or which ones I have to watch on replay. We'll see how it goes. Let's move on to NASCAR. They have now hit their playoffs, and we talked about last week that 15 different winners, so there's only 1 spot really up for grabs. Well, It turned out to be 2, because as the thing I brought up did happen, Kurt Busch pulled himself from the playoffs because he doesn't believe he will be medically cleared in the next few weeks, so he generously got out of the way and allowed that to go on. So then it was Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex were both in based on points. They had like a 200-point lead over the next person, so there was no threat there. Their only threat was if a new winner emerged. The race was supposed to happen Saturday night. It gets rained out. And then it happens early on Sunday as they were trying to beat the rain. They get all the way down to 20 laps to go. It starts raining in part of the track, and NASCAR doesn't throw the flag. Go watch this highlight. It's nuts because it takes the NASCAR guys a couple replays to notice it. But like 5 cars instantly just turn without any contact. They just hit, obviously your slick tires, you're going 200 miles an hour. You hit a bit of a slick spot, and like 5 cars at the same time all turn. Half the field, if not 2/3 of the field, wreck during this one. Many of the cars are out for the whole race. Some of them go out there just looking disheveled and have to sit there through a rain delay for hours. Austin Dillon was one of maybe 4 cars that were left that looked like it did at the start of the race, and it helped him win, which made him the 16th different winner. So he's in. Ryan Blaney ends up beating Martin Truex Jr. on points as Truex had a very banged up race car. I was trying to hold on to the draft, lost 6 or 7 positions there in the last 20 laps, while Ryan Blaney was 6 laps down because he was wrecked like 20 laps into the damn thing and kept passing cars that were eliminated from all the wrecks. I get it. Like, NASCAR knew what they were doing drama-wise by having Daytona be the last race of the regular season. But as a driver, this has to be the most annoying part of the schedule. Like, you don't want to have the last race determine whether you make the playoffs or not. But what a crapshoot of a race to have that happen.
100%. You know, and I turned on the TV to kind of catch a few minutes of it Saturday, and with it getting rained out. But for them to start the way they did, hats off to Austin Dillon. Here's the thing. The way he got through that wreck, and like you said, if you have not watched that wreck,
that was insane too.
Because they replayed probably for a half hour, different angles, looking at everything. And I was so intrigued. And even Denise, I have to say this, Denise sat there. We watched going through how many different ways of these guys spinning out and moving. And I forget who the other driver was. The 4-car. I'm trying to remember who was
Harvick?
in the 4-car.
Harvick.
Was it Harvick? That was the 4-car. How he had hit and spun out there in that race. But you watch Austin Dillon, and he just kind of takes his foot out a little bit, and then he just guns right through as the 21 car moved up the ramp a little bit, and he's able to hit the gas and get through on the bottom of the racetrack, come right through there. So hats off on the way he finished. You know, that's not the way any of these guys wanted to win this thing. Is, 20 laps left. They were trying to duck it, but I think that's the best thing that could have happened for Austin Dillon, because you get out there, the big thing for him is they took a gamble on if he had enough gas, and they made it quite clear there was no way he was finishing without getting fuel in this one. So Austin comes away with a win and gets into the playoffs.
Yeah, a wild one. And now we move on to, like you said, the playoffs. First round starts this weekend at the Cookout Southern 500 at Darlington. It is part of a 3-race round. The other 2 races, Kansas and Bristol. 4 of the 16 teams will be eliminated after this round. They'll go down, so there's 4 teams left, and those 4 will all go at it at Phoenix, which is the final race. I wish they would rotate that final race, but
yeah,
that's just
100%. The other driver that I wanted to bring up, and he did really good, and he was up and down, and that was Justin Haley. He had a bad restart, that last accident before the rain came and took out everybody. He was up leading the race and gets pushed back to 6th. The next thing you know, he's back to 10th, and then he was part of that big race. Ended up 28th. I think that kid has got a future ahead of him. Yeah, racing for Chevy, he just looked really good, composed, and it was
all rise. 3-run bomb, number 51.
Now with him having back-to-back games with home runs, that might change his pace a little bit. 51st home run of the season. Hands down, AL MVP of the year.
That's what happens when you put Benny in front of Judge, not after Judge. God dang. That's awesome. Yay. 7 runs in a game. The Yankees don't do that anymore. All right. We talked NASCAR. NASCAR was fun. They are getting ready to start their playoffs. The PGA finished their playoffs.
Yeah, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And Rory McIlroy comes back, has a phenomenal day on Sunday. Like we talked at the very beginning of the first hour, I had split screen up with Little League World Series and had the golf tournament championship going on, the tour championship. Rory comes away, shoots 66 on Sunday, becomes the first player to win 3 FedEx titles. Won it in 2016, 2019. but you kind of feel bad for Scotty Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler starts the week having a 10-stroke, the lead there. Scotty, I think, was he started at, or excuse me, Rory started at 4 under for the tournament. Do you like, before we get into that, do you like the staggering
No,
of
I hate
giving them a lead?
It's dumb.
Well, if we do it now,
you don't do it any other rate. You don't do it in any other event. Why do it for the one that you can win $87 billion?
Yeah. Rory McIlroy comes away with $18 million with the win. So it's kind of crazy to see that. So Scotty Scheffler ends up finishing second, tied with Sungjae Im, who was in it the entire time too. He was 2 holes ahead of the guys. Just really crazy watching this finish out. M and Scheffler will split $11.5 million, biggest prize fund of the entire year. I did take Xander Schauffele. He was in the mix for a little bit on Saturday. Sunday didn't have the putter working quite the way that he probably should have. He ends up finishing 4th.
I took Rory McIlroy, right?
No, you ended up taking, we'll talk about it in a second, but did you see the highlights of Rory talking to Scott Scheffler and Meredith Scheffler? So Scotty's parents were there as Rory was coming off, and he goes up and hugs Scott Scheffler, Scotty, his dad, and he apologizes, and he says, "I'm sorry." And Scott tells him right away, "You were the better player today. You did unbelievable. You played great." His mom, Meredith, said the exact same thing. And even in the press conferences after the day, Rory says Scotty is probably the best player, if not the player of the year this year for PGA. Scotty Scheffler played unbelievable. You look also at Schauffele winning 3 titles in 10 weeks. But Rory McIlroy, what he did this year, ended up second. He had a tough finish at the Open over in across the pond, coming up just short second. You could easily say Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler 1-2 this season, but it was a great finish to this season. The next tournament comes up is the President's Cup, which will happen in about 20 days, and that will be happening at Quail Hollow. So excited to watch that happen. But the boy you took for the PGA Championship come out with some big news today. Cameron Smith is going to be playing in the LIV tournament this weekend.
So much drama. That golf is just drama anymore. I don't even know where to put it.
Yeah. So some big names that hit there today, according to reports, and they became official today. Cameron Smith is going to play the tournament this weekend. Others reported that are going to be playing this week. Some big names there: Cameron Tringale, Mark Leishman, Joaquin Neiman, and Harold Varner III, leaving the PGA to go and play these tournaments. We're all about making money, and I know that's what it is, but dang, I mean, what is happening? And I know Rory has been the vocal part of this, and they've had meetings, and I know they're trying to spice things up. The commissioner for PGA is trying to spice things up, and
I like the changes PGA did. Listen, the LIV group, the LIV league, the LIV whatever is good for the sport of golf. Competition is never bad. However, any of these golfers that think they can just bounce back and forth are highly mistaken. I was like very young when this was going on, but when the USFL and the NFL were battling for players in the 80s, like Jim Kelly could not bounce around and play for whichever one wanted to give him the most money which year, right? Like you signed your contract, you move on. Now, yes, you're an independent contractor, but we're wrestling fans. Roman Reigns is not showing up for WrestleMania and then going over to AEW because their all-out pay-per-view is that week. You can't just bounce around to whichever one's going to give you the most money that week.
100%. And especially with Cameron Smith sitting there in second place right now. second in the world. The standings, those will get shuffled up a little bit over the next week or so, as everything is finishing up. But, Cameron Smith is one of those guys I thought that could have easily dominated this tour in the next couple of years. You look at Liv. Liv is only going to end up doing, what is it? I think they figured out 12 tournaments.
Yeah.
And you can make a lot of money, but what if you're that guy that doesn't ever end up making any money? I mean, that's
Cameron Smith is good enough where he's going to make money. And like Eric said, it's good that the Liv is bumping up, having PGA bump up the money. I mean, prize pool's going up. It's good for everyone in the end. It's just for those golfers that think, well, I'm just going to go play this Liv tournament instead of this random ass PGA tournament. But when the Masters comes around, I'm at the Masters. Well, no, you're not. You pick. You're one or the other. You're a Liv golfer or a PGA golfer. If you pick one or the other, at the end, I'm not going to get mad at you. But if you're trying to do both, that's not how that works at all. You can't just bounce back and forth and then get mad because one doesn't want you anymore.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Yeah, well, I understand 100%. I agree with them talking about what the Liv is doing and the excitement of how much they can make, and the excitement of only playing so many rounds, and almost feeling like a tournament style, like what we play when we do our golf scrambles. Everybody starts and you rotate through and all that. I mean,
now can we get to a point where we have the Ryder Cup, and that's always fun. Could we have some kind of a cup between the Liv golfers and the PGA golfers, and we go there? That is our.
Never thought of that.
Compromise. That's the word I was looking for. Like, obviously, I think these guys would still like to play in the 4 majors. Maybe there's a way that PGA can just make that a full-on golf event, but then you're just out of their point system and stuff. But the 4 majors there's different ways that they will figure this stuff out, but I don't think you can just pick and choose which one you want to do each week.
Yeah, so that just throws everything. Okay, how do you determine who is the world's best golfer? I mean, you're going to lose Cameron Smith, who is number one.
Stop what you're saying. Read the comment.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is you get these guys in there with the idea of how are you going to rank these guys overall? Everybody wants to.
No, the rankings are different.
So that's the
PGA
thing.
people, Liv people.
But right now they are
not
the
the same.
World. You've got the FedEx Cup points, and then you've got
FedEx
the world
is PGA
ranking.
points.
Right,
World rankings is gone. It doesn't matter.
And that's the thing, is that's going to have to dissipate, and then you don't have anything.
The world rankings is like the PWI or the PWA 500 of wrestling. It's subjective and nobody cares, except for the people that end up being number one. Before we get out of here, let's run down the Major League Baseball scoreboard real quick. Again, Guardians defeated the Orioles 5-1. Reds with the upset win over the Cardinals 5-1. Rays got a big win over the Marlins 7-2. Athletics beat the Nationals 10-6. Blue Jays came back. They scored 3 runs in the 6th to come back and beat the Cubs 5-3. Dodgers held on to beat the Mets 4-3. Mariners defeated the Tigers 9-3. Rockies held on for their upset. They beat the Braves 3-2. Pirates beat the Brewers 4-2. So both teams in the NL Central take losses today. Twins are up all over the Red Sox 10-5 in the 9th. Astros holding on to a 4-2 lead in the bottom of the 9th there. Royals up 8-5 in the 8th over the White Sox. Diamondbacks beating up on the Phillies 5-0 in the 4th. Padres and Giants are scoreless in the 4th inning, and the Yankees with home run number 51 from Aaron Judge leading the Angels 7-2. That one in the bottom of the 4th. There we go. Hey, we did it. We finished another episode. I think this one was fun. I think we had some goofy arguments in there. We've gotten through all of our division previews. Next week will be another normal week. Hopefully in studio still. Again, I got the email yesterday that they're working on things. So we will see if that all goes through before next week or not. Robert will not be here the week afterwards for episode 99. I don't know if I'll do it at home at that week and then have like an Eric or Robert or somebody join me, or if we'll have some extra guests or whatever. Episode 100 after that. We got to do this one big. maybe get Denny back on, maybe get Alicia on. We'll have a lot of fun for episode 100, and then Robert's off the next 2 weeks after that. So we'll make it work. We're going to have some fun with it. We appreciate each and every one of you guys for always hanging out with us each and every Tuesday. Don't forget, I have to do the plugs for the other jobs. If you want to get up-to-date reactions or quick reactions from 3 guys, possibly 4, depending on who's in the office when the night's done, from people that are damn ass exhausted, the Tribune now has a video show that recaps all of the Friday football action. You can check that out on lmtribune.com or on the Twitterverses or wherever else they're going to put it. We had our kind of trial pilot episode last week. Robert made fun of me because I was tired at 2 a.m. I laughed because all 3 of us randomly just wore red shirts that day. There's something I noticed when I saw the thumbnail. But go check that out, and then we'll get more deeper into it on our show here on Tuesday. And I'm hoping to have highlights next week.
Cross our fingers.
I'm messing around with it. We'll see how it works. But, Robert, any last words?
Hey, the biggest game of the year. I know it's always a tough one, but Lewis and Clarkson will preview it next week.
Yes.
As the Battle of the Bridges will be happening.
Stop saying it. It's the Lewis and Clarkson game.
I know.
I hate the Battle of the Bridges. That's neither here nor there. Maybe we'll have some people on for that. But for now, episode 97 in the books. I had a lot of fun. I was tired coming into this episode. I'm now ready to go to work. I have a lot of energy now. So thank you guys for making this enjoyable each and every week. But for now, that's Robert. I'm Randy. We will see you next week. But for now, we are